Good afternoon. Welcome to Midday Prime. I'm Amritpal Singh. In the next 1 hour, we'll bring you all the stories and updates from India and around the world. We'll update you about the happenings in the world of business and sports, and we'll get you some interesting stories that are making the headlines. But first up, the big news of this hour. Brisk polling underway in the second phase of elections for Bihar Assembly. Good turnout also being reported for Assembly bypolls for the 54 seats in 10 states. Prime Minister Modi appeals to voters to practice social distancing while going to vote. Prime Minister Modi says democracy is winning in Bihar while nepotism is being defeated in Bihar. Addressing an election rally for the third phase of the Forbesganj in Bihar, Prime Minister slams the Congress for misleading the people of Bihar by making fake promises. Prime Minister also holds rally in Saharsa. RJD's Tejashwi Yadav to hold a dozen rallies in Bihar today. India achieves yet another milestone in its fight against COVID-19 as the new confirmed cases in the last 24 hours fall under 40,000. India's active cases stand under 5.5 lakh, where total recovered cases cross the 76 lakh mark. Recovery rate further improves to almost 92%. Navies of Quad countries, that's India, United States, Australia and Japan, participating in the Malabar 2020 maritime exercise in the Bay of Bengal from today. 4-day-long naval exercise is a non-contact at-sea-only drill to be conducted in 2 phases. In international news, Republican President Donald Trump and his opponent Democrat Joe Biden engage in the last-minute canvassing as the United States is all geared up for presidential polls today. Over 97 million early votes have already been cast. Voting begins in New Hampshire. Shooting at 6 locations in central Vienna in Austria account for 3 lives, including 1 attacker. Government terms it as a repulsive terrorist attack. Prime Minister Modi expresses grief over loss of lives in Vienna terror attacks as India stands with Austria during this tragic time. US President Trump also expresses grief. And let's begin with the big news. Let's now take a look at news from poll-bound Bihar. Well, voting is underway in Bihar for the second phase of Assembly elections today. Voting is taking place in 94 constituencies spread over 17 districts, including Patna, Vaishali, Sitamarhi, Darbhanga and Madhubani. Polling, which began at 7 this morning, will end at 6 in the evening. Over 2.86 crore voters will decide the fate of 1,463 candidates. They include 146 women and 1 transgender. Elaborate arrangements have been made to ensure free and fair polling. In Patna district alone, 15,000 paramilitary forces have been deployed at different polling stations. Chief Electoral Officer H.R. Srinivas said that polling will be up to 4 p.m. in 8 Naxal-affected constituencies, which include Raghopur, Paro, Meenapur and Alolia. Out of 41,362 booths, 8,694 booths are sensitive. Election Commission has made arrangements of live webcasting from 3,548 booths. Additional security forces have been deployed in Naxal-infested areas to ensure trouble-free polling. Election Commission has issued orders to follow COVID-19 protocol during the conduct of elections. Every person has been instructed to wear a mask during the election-related activities. Electorates are exercising their right of franchise wearing masks. Thermal scanning of all persons is being carried out and sanitizers are available at all locations during the polling. All polling booths have already been sanitized in view of COVID situation. Only 1,000 electors will exercise the right of franchise at each polling station instead of the earlier 1,500. BJP is contesting on 46 seats, the JDU on 43, the Vikashsheel Insan Party on 5 seats in this particular phase. While the RJD is contesting on 56 seats, the Congress has fielded 24 candidates. The LJP has fielded 52 candidates, the RLSP has fielded 36 candidates, the BSP, which is in alliance with the RLSP, has fielded 33 candidates, NCP has fielded 29 candidates. And 32.82% polling has been recorded till 1 p.m. in the second phase of elections for the Bihar Assembly. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appealed to the people to come out in large numbers to vote and make the festival of democracy a success. He added that social distancing and wearing masks is mandatory. He has urged those voting in seats where bypolls are taking place to vote in large numbers and strengthen the festival of democracy. This is what the Prime Minister tweeted today. And Bihar Governor Phagu Chauhan cast his vote for the second phase of Bihar elections at the polling booth in government school in Diga in Patna. Speaking to media persons, he appealed to the people to participate in the election in large numbers. The governor hoped that voting percentage will be more than the previous time.
बिहार के लोगों को यही अपील करेंगे कि लोकतंत्र के पर्व में बढ़ चढ़ के हिस्सा लें और वैसे भी बिहार जो है सबसे आगे है। जब हम लोग समझ रहे थे कि बहुत कम वोट पड़ेगा कोरोना के नाते, लेकिन फिर भी 54-55% वोट पड़ा। अब की बार मुझे उम्मीद है इससे भी ज़्यादा वोट पड़ेगा।
And Deputy Chief Minister Sushil Kumar Modi also cast his vote at the polling booth in Rajendra Nagar in Patna. He urged people to step out of their homes, cast their vote, maintain social distancing and keep wearing masks while going out to vote. LJP President Chirag Paswan also cast his vote at a polling booth in Khagadia. Former Bihar Chief Minister Rabri Devi and RJD Chief Ministerial candidate Tejasvi Yadav filed their votes for the Bihar Polls in Patna itself. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar cast his vote at a government school in Diga. The second phase is taking place. There are 8 Naxal affected constituencies which will vote till about 4 p.m. today, but till 4 p.m. the voting is in these Naxal affected constituencies which include Raghopur and Aurelia and in other places where the voting is taking place today in Bihar, voting shall continue till 6 p.m. And in a message to the voters for the poll day, the Election Commission has urged the people to check their name on the voters list by calling the helpline number 1950 or the voter helpline app or the NVSP portal. Also, the EC has also asked people to carry an ID card or an identity document specified by the Election Commission. Further, polling booths are equipped with hand sanitizers and staff is provided with masks, face shields and gloves and other personal protective equipment. The Election Commission has also provided single-use gloves for voters who will use electronic voting machines. Thermal scanning is being done at all poll activity sites and masks are mandatory. So if you have to go out and vote, you need to wear a mask, so do not go out without a mask. And we are joined for more on that story by our colleague Salman, who joins us from Patna. Salman Haider. Salman, give us a sense of how the voting is going on. Do you expect it to cross the numbers of the last time around?
Yes, it is our guess that the polling would be around 55% or maybe more, because it is midday and more than 25% polling has already been done. So I am at present I am at a polling station here in Kumhrar Vidhan Sabha constituency, and people are queued up due to corona also, but a large number of people are queued up at this polling station amid keeping in view the corona precautions also. So the voting is going on smoothly, observing COVID precautions. Yes, Tejendra.
Salman, if you could request your camera person if you can pan the camera and show to us for our viewers how the voting is progressing there, and also while he does that, could you tell us what measures? I understand sanitizers have been put in place, the staff is wearing PPE kits, everybody has to mandatorily wear a mask. If they're not wearing a mask, they're not allowed entry inside the polling station. Social distancing is being maintained. Could you show us the visuals and tell us what sort of arrangements have been put in place?
Yes, here on the gates only, the thermal scanner is there, and without scanning, no one is allowed to be entered here in the polling station. And sanitizers are also there. Aap idhar aaiye. The personnel, poll personnel with the sanitizer are also there, and here inka check kiya. You can see that every person is being checked, for temperature is being checked, hand is sanitized, and gloves are being distributed to franchise their votes. Yes.
Salman, tell us.
I would like to talk to some voters also.
Please go ahead.
Yes. आपने सुबह अभी वोट दिया?
हाँ, वोट दिया यहीं पर।
कोविड के कारण कोई परेशानी, कोई बाधा आपको हुई?
नहीं, कोई बाधा नहीं, पूरी व्यवस्था है यहाँ पर। सभी लोगों को सैनिटाइजर दिया जा रहा है, ग्लोव्स लगाया जा रहा है और पूरे प्रिकॉशन के साथ मतदान हो रहा है यहाँ पर।
आप मास्क लगा के गए थे अंदर?
हाँ, मास्क लगा करके गए थे। आपसे बात हो रही है इसीलिए इसको हटाया है। मास्क
तो
लगा।
कैसा उत्साह है जनता में, कैसा उत्साह है मतदान?
काफ़ी उत्साह है, लोग बढ़ चढ़कर मतदान में भाग ले रहे हैं और सभी परिवार के साथ, बच्चों के साथ लोग यहाँ पर मतदान करने आ रहे हैं।
As you can see, the enthusiasm in the voters is there, and people with family members are coming here to cast their vote, and the enthusiasm is there. Yes.
And what is the latest polling figures that you getting? We told our viewers around over 32% voting has already taken place till 1 p.m. Do you have more update on that right now?
Yes. At this polling booth itself, it has crossed more than 25%. So by the evening, some slacking is there right now, but in the evening, during the last hours,
yes,
polling normally increases. So we can hope that it will go 55 to 56% here. And one more thing is to tell you that around 51,000 postal ballots were distributed to the people in first phase, and now around 2 lakh postal ballots are being distributed for first and second phases of elections. These postal ballots are for service voters as well as for the persons, senior citizens who can't come over 80 years of age, who can't come to the polling booth, and also to PWDs, Divyangjans, who are unable to venture out in this corona condition, prevailing corona environment. The block level officer is collecting from their residents the ballot papers.
Okay.
Earlier ballot papers were distributed to them. So these are the things, and polling is not affected at all due to corona. Yes.
Okay, Salman, you would be getting updates from other parts of the state. Give us a sense of how polling is going on there. Are EVM machines working properly? Is there any news or any information about any disruption? And especially tell us about the sensitive and the hypersensitive constituencies and polling booths, how polling there is taking place.
See, there are 8 such polling centers where polling will end at 4 p.m. And these are basically very sensitive from Naxal activities point of view. But everywhere else, the polling is going on smoothly. A couple of snags in EVMs at 1 or 2 polling centers has been reported since early morning, but it was the initial hours during which the snag developed. But the snag was removed, EVMs were changed, and now polling process is going on very smoothly. Yes.
All right, Salman, many thanks for joining us and giving us this update. We'll keep coming back to you throughout the day. For the moment, thank you. And besides assembly elections in Bihar, by-elections are being witnessed in 56 other assembly seats in 11 states this week. Voting to fill 54 vacant seats in the state assemblies is being held today, while voting for 2 seats in Manipur will be held on the 7th of November. Voting is underway for 28 seats in Madhya Pradesh, 1 seat each in Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Telangana, 8 seats of Gujarat, 2 seats each in Jharkhand, Karnataka, Nagaland and Odisha, 7 seats of Uttar Pradesh. Also on November 7th, elections will be held for the Valmiki Nagar Lok Sabha seat in Bihar, along with the 3rd phase of polling for the assembly elections in the state. Counting for all seats will be taken up on November 10th. And for more on the by-polls, I'm joined by my colleagues Aditya, who's joining us from Bhopal, to give us a sense of how polling for these by-polls is taking place in Madhya Pradesh, and also Aisha Khanum, my colleague, is joining me from Bengaluru to give us a sense of how polling is taking place in Karnataka. First to you, Aditya, give us a sense of, there are a significant number of seats in Madhya Pradesh that are going for by-polls. Give us a sense of how polling there is going.
By-election polling is underway in Madhya Pradesh on 28 assembly seats of Madhya Pradesh. We can say till 1 p.m. More than 30% voters have cast their votes. Election Commission, we can say Election Commission is prepared for the COVID guidelines also. Those voters who came on polling station, first Election Commission employ taking the body temperature by the thermal screening, and also sanitize their hands, and those people who are not wearing the mask, the Election Commission also provide the mask to them, and we can say the all guidelines, all protocol is following in polling stations of more than 9,300 polling stations in Madhya Pradesh. Only one news reported in the firing activity, but the rest of all polling stations is voting is underway peacefully. We can say the people are very excited, especially those voters who are a first-timer voter. They are very excited for casting their vote. Election Commission also provide all the facilities to the voters, because in this time the sun is on the top, the chayadar tents, and also and these kind of activities are also provided by the Election Commission. So we can say the polling is underway, and we can expect more percentage on till the end in this voting.
Okay. Aditya, request you to stay on. Aisha, if I can come to you. Salman from Bihar was telling us that how all safety measures are in place. Nobody's being allowed inside polling booths without masks. Aditya is saying, you know, the election commission's made wonderful arrangements. Give us, is that how it is in Karnataka as well?
Well, Amrit, in Karnataka also the election commission has made the hugely appreciative arrangements for the polls. It is just for 2 assembly polls here in Karnataka. One is in Tumkur district Shira, and here in Bangalore at Rajarajeshwari Nagar. But the arrangements are really highly appreciative made by the election commission, because all the COVID protocol is being followed here. Behind me you can see how this entire polling booth is managed. Since morning we are watching people coming in to cast their vote, and they are being given gloves before they press the button of the EVMs, and then their hands are sanitized. The gloves are collected in a separate bag, and then they are allowed to go out. And mask is compulsory, sanitization is compulsory, thermal screening is compulsory when they enter the polling booth. So this election is very interesting with regard to the political stakes are very high, though 2 assembly seats, but the political stakes are very high for Congress and BJP. Then the security wise, RR Nagar has seen unprecedented security here in Bangalore. Over 2,500 police personnel, and then security forces deployed at every half a kilometer, because RR Nagar in Bangalore is a very high profile constituency always. So this is almost like a general election scene that we are seeing here in Bangalore. And all the precautions, protocols are in place, and people have been walking in briskly since morning to cast their vote. But now, since it is afternoon, it has dipped. Perhaps, you know, in the post-lunch people will turn up, because it's not a holiday here, and very likely that by 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. More crowd will start trickling in. And also arrangements have been made for COVID positive patients to come to the booths in PPE kits, and they can cast their vote coming in ambulance. So this arrangement has also been made. So this will be at the last 1 hour of the polling.
Aisha,
yes, that will be very interesting.
You saying a COVID positive patient can come and cast his vote? He has to come in an ambulance, and a separate arrangement, a separate room, a separate voting EVM is being made for, is put aside for the COVID positive patients. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, absolutely. They have been told that if they wish to vote, they can come in PP kit and they can vote. That will be in the last few hours of the polling, and then they will be allowed to vote in the select polling booth to their place of stay. Remember, most of the COVID positive patients are undergoing treatment in their homes, in home isolation. So these are the people, these are the patients who are mostly asymptomatic, who are in position to come out and vote, but they have to take extreme precautions to come to the polling booth and cast their vote. So this is a very interesting aspect that the Election Commission has provided for the COVID positive patients who can come and vote, but they have to come in the ambulance and they have to vote in the last few hours before the polling closes.
All right, that's very interesting. Both Aditya and Aisha, Aditya, to you first. You know, Salman was telling us that brisk polling is taking place in Bihar. Has the pandemic sort of dampened the spirit, or the enthusiasm is complete and COVID has made no difference? Is the polling as compared to the last time, though these are bypolls in both the states that you are in and reporting on, but compared to the last time, compare it for us how the polling is taking place. Aditya?
No, Amrit, we can say no, you know, the enthusiasm is very high. Those people who are, those voters who are COVID positive, they are casting, they will cast their votes from last hour, 5 to 6. Election Commission also give facility to the, you know, the valid paper voting, because as we see last 1 week, COVID patients or COVID positive voters, some COVID positive voters also cast their votes in last few days by the valid paper. But we can say postal ballot, sorry. That's why we can say no pandemic shown in this polling. Enthusiasm is high. People, voters are very excited. They come out for cast their vote. and they are trying to make the strong government in our state. They choose a strong candidate, eligible candidate for their constituency.
Okay. And Aisha, is that the picture in where you are and both the seats in Karnataka?
Well, there is enthusiasm among the voters, but on some booths we saw very few voters turning up. But on several booths, especially in city in Bangalore, people turned up in huge numbers in the first few hours. From 8 to 10, there was a huge crowd. Prominent citizens in this area, in Radharajeshwari Nagar, turned up to cast their vote. A Minister for Revenue, R. Ashok, came to vote here. So there is no lack of enthusiasm, but yes, people are careful, they are taking precautions, and also though inside the booths there are a lot of precautions being taken, but outside we see some lapses in the way where the electoral slips are being given to people. There is some there is a lapse in social distancing, and people seem to be crowding at those places. Oh. But overall, this election is very there is a lot of enthusiasm among the people here in Shira and RR Nagar. And believe me, Amrit, I'm getting a picture of our general elections in Karnataka, okay. Though I am reporting for only two assembly seats in the bypolls. But the enthusiasm, the campaigning, wherein huge people turned up in large numbers. Okay. When Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa campaigned in Shira and in Bangalore, there were lakhs of people, and it almost gave a picture of a general election. So that is the kind of enthusiasm. As I said, for the political parties, for Congress and BJP, this is a prestige battle. For JDS, it is a battle to retain their seat in Shira, which is where the JDS MLA Satyanarayana's demise led to bypolls in Shira. So JDS is struggling hard to retain that seat, whereas RR Nagar, it is a battle between the Congress and the BJP, and Muniratna, who is in the fray here in RR Nagar in Bangalore, is considered as the green horn in this elections, and he's represented this constituency 3 times, but now he is representing BJP. So that will be very interesting to see how the voters will cast their votes, because the candidate who was a Congress candidate earlier is now a BJP candidate here. Okay. So it will be a very interesting election. As I said, November 10 will be the day where the entire state will be looking forward to the results of RR Nagar and Shira.
Okay. Very quickly, Aditya, give us a sense of the political arithmetic that's playing out today in Madhya Pradesh, because the state has seen the politics go through a lot of rough and tumble in the past.
Yes, Amrit, if we talk about the political scenario in Madhya Pradesh, around 28 by-elections is going on in Madhya Pradesh. 25 seats are left by the people who are left Congress and joined BJP, and 3 seats are left by the death of the the respected MLAs. But we can say BJP, if the BJP government is continuing in Madhya Pradesh, BJP want only 8 seats in Madhya Pradesh. If BJP take 8 seats in Madhya Pradesh, the government is Shivraj government is continue in Madhya Pradesh. But the Congress, the challenging phase of Congress in Madhya Pradesh is that the Congress want to all 28 seats. Congress want all 28 seats. If Congress want 28 seats in Madhya Pradesh, then they will form a government in Madhya Pradesh. So we can say the challenging situation faced by the government, by the Congress, not for BJP till now.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. We'll see how it plays out. Both Aisha and Aditya, take care of yourself while reporting. You're reporting in the times of pandemic. Perhaps these are actually the first elections that are taking place in the country during the times of pandemic. So you take care. Thank you very much for joining us for the moment. And let's now move on to our developing story. And staying with Bihar, the high-octane campaigning continues in Bihar for the third and final phase of polling. Leaders across political parties are crisscrossing the state to garner support for their candidates. Addressing an election rally for the third phase in Forbesganj in Bihar, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that democracy is winning in Bihar, while nepotism is being defeated in the state. The Prime Minister slammed the Congress and said the party misled the people of Bihar by making fake promises.
आज बिहार में परिवारवाद हार रहा है, जनतंत्र फिर से जीत रहा है। आज बिहार में रंगबाजी और रंगदारी हार रही है, विकास फिर से जीत रहा है। आज बिहार में अहंकार हार रहा है और परिश्रम फिर से जीत रहा है।
And later in the day, the Prime Minister also addressed an election rally in Saharsa. In his address, the Prime Minister referred to Atmanirbhar Bharat and called upon the people of Bihar to make it Atmanirbhar state.
आत्मनिर्भर बिहार यानी बिहार का नेक्स्ट जनरेशन आईटी हब के रूप में विकास। आत्मनिर्भर बिहार यानी बिहार में नए दुग्ध प्रोसेसिंग, मिल्क प्रोसेसिंग उद्योगों का विकास। आत्मनिर्भर बिहार यानी बिहार में सैकड़ों नए किसान उत्पादक संघों का निर्माण। आत्मनिर्भर बिहार यानी बिहार के स्थानीय उद्यमियों, स्थानीय व्यापारियों का विकास। आत्मनिर्भर बिहार यानी बिहार के कुटीर उद्योगों का विकास। आत्मनिर्भर बिहार यानी स्थानीय भाषा में, मातृभाषा में मेडिकल इंजीनियरिंग जैसी तकनीकी शिक्षा की पढ़ाई।
And BJP National President JP Nadda and Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath also held rallies to vote the voters of the state. RJD's Tejaswi Yadav and LJP's Chirag Paswan are also campaigning in several places across the state, especially where voting will take place for the third phase of elections. Today is the second phase of elections. And moving on, the 24th edition of the Malabar Naval Exercise is scheduled in two phases in November 2020. Phase 1 of the exercise Malabar 20 involving participation by the Indian Navy, the United States Navy, the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force and the Royal Australian Navy commenced of Vishakhapatnam in Bay of Bengal from today. It will go on till the 6th of this month. The exercise is being conducted as a non-contact, at-sea only exercise in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. It will showcase higher levels of synergy and coordination between friendly navies, which is based on their shared values and commitment to an open, inclusive Indo-Pacific and a rule-based international order. And let's now move on to our next segment, which we call the National Prime segment. Let's now take a look at the update on COVID-19 from across the country. Well, 58,323 recoveries were recorded yesterday, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients to 76,03,121. With this, the recovery rate currently stands at 91.96%. India's three-pronged strategy of test, trace and treat is proving to be a success. The fertility rate has dropped to 1.49%. With 1,23,097 deaths recorded so far. The number of active COVID-19 cases in India stands at 5,41,405, which is about 6.55% of the total cases recorded so far. And the Government of India's training module for management of COVID-19 named Integrated Government Online Training Portal is making a difference. According to the Health Ministry, the uniquely designed iGot platform provides self-contained training material for COVID-19 warriors comprising of 56 modules, one which has 196 videos and 133 training documents. So far, more than 19.2 lakh people have completed the courses and certificates have been issued to more than 15 lakh online trainees. And as India continues the fight or the battle against coronavirus, coronavirus testing has been ramped up. According to the Indian Council of Medical Research, 10,46,247 samples were tested yesterday alone. With this total of 11 crore 17 lakh 8,900 and 350 samples have been tested so far. India has slammed Pakistan for supporting cross-border terrorism, taking advantage of the COVID-19 situation. First Secretary of India's permanent mission at the United Nations, Ashish Sharma, said that the world has come to a standstill due to the COVID-19 situation, but Pakistan has continued to support cross-border terrorism, taking advantage of the pandemic. Speaking at the interactive dialogue with special rapporteur on contemporary forms of racism and other related intolerance, Sharma said that Pakistan is trying to create divisions among the religious communities as well.
While the world has come to a standstill due to the pandemic, but Pakistan has only enhanced support to cross-border terrorism, taking advantage of the pandemic. Pakistan is trying to create divisions among our religious communities as well. Fortunately, their provocation is falling on deaf ears, since India has had a tradition of pluralism and coexistence where all communities live in harmony under a democratic framework. We call on Pakistan to practice coexistence in their own country and eschew all sectarian violence, discrimination and intolerance against their own people. Pakistan has yet again abused this platform to forward its nefarious political agenda. I condemn the comments made by the representative of Pakistan.
And in our show, it's time for news and updates from the world of business. And my colleague Ajay Mishra is joining us for more on that. Ajay, it's over to you.
Thanks, Amber. Lots of dynamics from domestic and international are playing at this point in time as far as the financial markets are concerned. Let's start with the Sensex. The Indian market witnessed healthy buying in the morning trade on November 3rd with the benchmark Sensex and Nifty logging gains of 1% each as investors lapped up the shares, banking and financial heavyweights, giving a boost to the hope that the economy is coming back on the track. India's factory activity expanded at its fastest pace in over a decade in October, and that's quite encouraging for the market. That's if you see the PMI for manufacturing is almost 58, which is very good number. And currently the Nifty 50 is trading at 11,997, 997, 128 points up, while the BSE Sensex is up 448 points at 40,206. Currently the IT stocks have started moving into red, but all other sectors are currently trading in green. I'm joined by Purusha, who is a stock expert and trainer from Mumbai. Pur, thanks very much again for joining us. What are the key reasons for this uptick in the markets? Is it purely international interest, or there are domestic fundamentals at work?
Good afternoon, Ajay. In fact, yeah, both of those factors are playing quite strongly. Also, liquidity front, there's quite a lot of money that has been moved in because of stimulus packages all across the world. And because of all of these reasons, markets have been very happy in the last 2 or 3 months, and we are happy also as investors.
And what is market expecting from the US presidential elections, and what's the outlook for going forward?
I think if the current president is re-elected, I think markets will be in this kind of a range-bound mood. Otherwise, if there is a change in the president, that is when I think markets will pause for some time to look forward towards the new policies, and if there is any kind of a change in policies that might come through.
Right. But as far as the domestic market is concerned, is there a buzz that the government might come into sector-specific stimulus in the days to come, and that's why this, some of the stocks are buzzing, or is there some interesting reasons?
Well, the government has been declaring quite a lot of newer policies and newer kinds of regulations that are there. Also the newer banking regulations that came up recently, as well as sector-specific stimulus and some forms of boost that is required, I think, within the economy. Also, the economy is also showing positive signs, and finally, I think numbers are actually now showing upturn now. So I think on the whole, it's a positive kind of a sentiment that has affected markets.
But Purv, what's your suggestion for the investors who actually want to go for the value investing at this point in time? Are there some sectors or stocks left for serious kind of investors, not just for trading and quick money making during this festive season, but for the value investing?
Serious investors and long-term investors always do find quite a lot of opportunities in these kinds of volatile markets, because it happens that in these kinds of markets, good quality stocks also get beaten down quite strongly. So it will give you good opportunities in these kinds of times. And I think people should look forward to these kinds of opportunities and grab them when they come.
Thanks, Purva. Thanks for joining us from Mumbai and putting the markets right now into the perspective. Moving on to the other markets, which is our bullion market, the gold and silver price is lower in the Indian markets ahead of the US election. On MCX, the gold futures were down 0.22% to 50,953 per 10 grams, while silver is lower to 61,942 per kilogram. Both gold and silver has risen in the previous session, that is on Monday. In global markets, the global prices were steady today after a sharp rise in the previous session. Spot gold was little changed at $1,892.51 per ounce as investors remain cautious ahead of the US presidential elections. The gold was also supported by a softer dollar. The dollar index dipped 0.14% against the basket of currencies, having hit a one-month high on Monday. That's all in the Business Prime for today, Amrit.
Well, thank you, Ajay, for that.
Thanks.
Thank you. And let's now get all the news from the world of economy. Well, this is our World Prime section. We get you news from all around the world. Well, let's begin with the United States, because it's a big day there. Today is the 3rd of November. Remember, the day when the world's oldest democracy, that's the United States, is voting to elect its president. US President Donald Trump is trying his luck again from the Republican Party, while his contender is Joe Biden, a former vice president of the United States of America. He is, of course, the Democratic presidential candidate. Voting has already begun in the United States in a northeastern state of North Hampshire. First ballots were cast in Dixville, Notch and Millsfield towns. Well, in other states, mostly voting will begin from 6 a.m. their time and 4:30 p.m. our time. That means in a couple of hours from now, and will continue till 7:30 our time, Indian time, on Wednesday. The voting time has been increased this time around due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The United States is on course for its highest electoral turnout in more than a century. A record over 10 crore people have already voted. They cast their votes in early voting. They have a system of early voting there, with 2/3 of the number of votes cast in the entire 20 2016 election. Those who have not voted through early voting will vote today to elect their new president. Texas and Hawaii have already seen bigger voter turnouts than the whole of last presidential election. While we're talking about the early voting, while the crucial battleground states of North Carolina, Georgia and Florida have over 90% of turnout as compared to 2016. This is for the early voting. And my colleague Abhishek Jha now joins me for more on that. Abhishek, you're covering another election, reporting on another election. Give us a sense of what do we expect today when the Americans go out and vote?
Amrit, this is going to be a closely contested fight in recent decades, at least in USA, where both sides have tried to garner as much support from the US voters. This election is also very significant because after the Bihar election, which is being held in India, this is one of the largest election exercise being held across the globe in the aftermath of COVID. So how people are going to react and how people are going to pick those issues which has been actually ensued with the onset of Corona. That will be interesting to see because so much of politics and other aspect of our day-to-day life has been impacted from this disease. So every government across the globe has to put forth certain steps so that the more and more healthcare facilities could be provided to its citizens. In USA, President Trump has been at the center of criticism from his opposition parties, in USA, that his tackling of coronavirus and the US healthcare system was not good enough, and it resulted in death of almost 230,000 people. While President Trump has been saying that if he had not taken appropriate steps, the death number could have crossed 1 million around. Beside this healthcare facilities and healthcare allegations, so many aspects of our life, economic aspect, social aspect, and maritime security and international affairs have also been affected with this COVID virus. And this time around, people in USA are going to see how and who are going to handle these epidemic situation in the days to come. And that will also be one of the major decision-making factor when voters in USA will be voting for their favorite candidates.
So you're saying the corona pandemic is going to bear heavy on the minds of the Americans when they go out and cast their votes today. What else? Economy, jobs, is that a big issue as well?
Of course, Amrit, because economy and jobs and every other thing has been, because in the last 4 years, whatever has been the economic, social and political discourse in USA will not be as much important and significant in the mind of people when they will be going to vote. They will always think about the last 6, 8, 10 months, and that will be the major deciding factor in their mind. And in the last 6, 8, 10 months, we have seen how Corona has impacted economies globally. USA was not exception to this thing. So much of unemployment has happened, so much of job losses have happened. Economy has been at standstill for weeks and months. There has been lockdown. So much of unrest has happened because of this thing. Apart from this, Amrit, there has also been at least 2 major racial protests in USA, yes, which was like Black Lives Matter, which has also been one of the recent months happening, and and opposition has garnered enough support and sentiment in favor of them, where Donald Trump could not garner as much support because of poor handling of the crisis that happened after the death of George Floyd, which happened in the police firing. Apart from this, what Trump administration has tried to do, it has tried to put China at the center stage and create a perception that China is becoming a challenge to USA, both in terms of economy, maritime, defense and international geopolitical balances that USA used to lead. And this perception he is trying to encash in the minds of voters while saying that China is coming and China is becoming a huge challenge, and USA needs to do needs to put more effort in that direction so that it can handle China and retain its #1 global leader position. This has been one of the major discourse of Trump administration.
All right, Abhishek, I'm intrigued by Donald Trump and I'm intrigued by you, how you straddle two elections. Many thanks for joining us for the moment and giving us your perspective on the US elections. And our correspondent Ira Spitzer from California has this report on the latest updates. Let's take a look.
Dramatic buildup to this election day in the United States. We've already seen more votes cast at this point in the election. Americans have been allowed to vote early as usual, but because of the coronavirus pandemic, there have been already close to 100 million ballots already cast, either through voting by mail or through early voting at polling stations. It would make sense, given the tremendous passion as well as animosity on both sides for their candidates. When you look at the messages coming from the president, Donald Trump, and his challenger, Joe Biden, we really do see a United States that does appear as divided as ever. I think the coronavirus pandemic, which has been raging here for the past 8 months, and we've also seen a surge over the past month or so, another surge. And so that is really mobilizing voters. But of course, that is the reason that, or one of the reasons that voters are not necessarily going to vote in person this year because of health worries about the pandemic. So that is largely why we've seen this surge in early voting. And it is also something that perhaps could be subject to legal challenges because of some of the procedural issues with voting in this way.
So that was Ira Spitzer reporting from California on the US elections. Meanwhile, security around the perimeter of the White House was on Monday spruced up day ahead of the US presidential elections. The fence, the same type that was put up during protests this summer, will encompass the Ellipse and Lafayette Square. This extra layer of security marks the most high-profile example to date of authorities preparing for an unrest following this election, particularly if there is no clear winner on November 4th. And fearing election-related chaos, retailers in major cities across the United States have boarded up their doors and windows and have hired extra security. Store owners have taken unprecedented measures to guard against any untoward incident.
Business districts and office buildings in several U.S. cities are boarding up their doors and windows for fear of Election Day unrest and in the days that follow. The sound of sawing, drilling, and nailing filled several blocks around the White House and in New York City, including its iconic Macy's flagship department store.
We got over there, we're doing too. We got here, we're doing. We got down here, we're doing. Just in case for the election.
Police said Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills will be closed down completely on Tuesday, following a large pro-Trump demonstration in the shopping district over the weekend. Federal authorities planned to extend the perimeter fencing around the White House by several blocks, encompassing the same area fenced out during this summer's protests against racism and police brutality. On Monday, 8 state attorneys general representing Illinois, Minnesota, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan warned they would not tolerate voter intimidation. But last week, a Michigan judge sided with gun rights advocates in allowing open carry at Election Day polling sites, blocking enforcement of an order by state authorities banning such displays of firearms. The foiled plot by a group including right-wing militia members to kidnap the state's Democratic governor still fresh in voters' minds. In Texas, the FBI was investigating an incident involving a pro-Trump convoy of vehicles that surrounded a tour bus carrying Biden campaign staff. Democrats accused the president of encouraging supporters to engage in acts of intimidation. Meanwhile, law enforcement is preparing for a range of potential threats, from spontaneous acts of violence to more organized, planned attacks, and police departments in major cities across the country say they are planning to put more officers on the streets or on standby around the election in case trouble erupts.
And we'll be bringing you all news related to the US election as it happens. on, starting from this evening on DD India. So stay tuned to your channel, DD India, for a comprehensive, exclusive coverage of the US election, complete with experts from India and the US here in our studios. From joining us virtually, our team of reporters on the ground in different parts of the United States, from coast to coast and everything in between. Don't forget to tune in at 6 p.m. today. It'll be a 14-hour exercise.
Joe Biden goes head-to-head against Donald Trump. What is at stake in the US election? And why is it important for India and the world? Join us for a 14-hour live coverage of the race for the White House from 6 p.m. on November 3, only on DD India, a billion voices.
And our 14-hour marathon coverage of the US presidential elections has been endorsed by elite guests and experts who will be joining us on our discussions throughout this 14-hour exercise on DD India. Senior Asia defense writer Raji Pillai has said that that's a marathon exercise and I'm looking forward to it. This is what Raji says. Former ambassador of India to Nepal, European Union, Belgium and Luxembourg, Manjeev Puri, has said that he'll be joining DD India's in-depth 14-hour coverage of the US presidential election at 10 p.m. Tonight and 10 a.m. Tomorrow. Professor at the NYU School of Professional Studies, Center for Global Affairs and leading UN specialization, WPS Sidhu, has said that he's looking forward to insightful discussions and deliberations on DD India. So do tune in to the 14-hour live coverage. The Deputy Director of the Asia Program and Senior Associate for South Asia at Wilson Center, Michael Kugelman, has said that he's looking forward to making a small contribution to this coverage, which features an array of impressive commentators and is led by Ramesh Ramachandran. Columnist for the Economic Times and long-time watcher of the India-US relations, Seema Shirohi, has said that Doordarshan is going all out with an army of commentators. So don't forget to tune in on DD India tonight, this evening at 6 p.m. And on Midday Prime, it's time for us to look at stories from the world of sports. And my colleague Suchitra joins us for more. Suchitra, tell us what's making news in the world of sports.
Thank you, Amrit. Let's start with some football news. Leicester is continuing with their strong away form in English Premier League after Manchester City, Arsenal and West Brom. They have now won 4-1 at Leeds this season. Jamie Vardy helped to create first-half goals for Harvey and Yuri before scoring himself in the 76th minute. With this win, Leicester has climbed to second place, a point behind Liverpool at the end of the 7th round. Fulham claimed their first Premier League win of the season with a dominant performance in a 2-0 victory over a lacklustre West Brom. Bobby opened the scoring in the 26th minute as the home side took the lead for only the second time this season, and soon after Ola struck his first goal for the club to settle the battle between the two sides chasing their first wins back in the top tier. On to Champions League. Holders Bayern Munich will face Salzburg in Champions League tonight. Salzburg are sweeping all before them in the Austrian Bundesliga, but they now face the toughest challenge in the form of the reigning European champions. Bayern Munich are still on track in the Bundesliga, winning 2-1 at Cologne at the weekend, even with Robert Lewandowski rested.
Thank you,
those
Suchitra.
were some top sports stories. Back to you, Amrit.
Yeah, thank you, Suchitra, for that. Thank you so much. And that's it then in Midday Prime. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.